Since we were kids, Ben, for example, payphones,
they're
gone. Your children will never know what a payphone is.
Nope.
No. Now parents have to decide when they're going to get cell phones for their kids, and I think the bigger question is, who's going to pay for the phone? Well, along with a lot of other things, these are all costing big money.
It's true, and our next guest says she has the answer. Please welcome author and creator of InvestingInYour401kKid.com, Tracie Shroyer.
Hi, Tracie.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
All right, this is a big issue, the cell phone thing. Now, your oldest is 5.
She's 5. She's not there yet.
Not there yet, but I mean, yeah.
Won't take long.
Okay, so let's talk about the cell phone. Who's getting one? When is this appropriate?
You know, every family is a little different. So for some families, it's really a necessity that a kid have a phone if they're a latchkey child, something like that. For others, the kid just really wants the phone.
Yeah.
So the first thing to think about when you're deciding what kind of phone you're going to get is who wants it and what the purpose is.
Okay.
If you're just checking in and wanting to make sure they're home safely, you don't need the same kind of phone as if you have a teenager who needs to be texting all the time.
Ah, yes.
So what kind of plan, though? I mean, how do you, if you've got a teen that likes to text, what do you do for...
I suggest a pay-as-you-go plan no matter who you start with, because it might be a little more expensive in the long run, but it is the ultimate opportunity to teach your teenager especially about how paying bills work. Because they learn to manage their time, they learn to manage their data usage, and if they run out of time or run out of money in their account, it shuts off automatically. It's not like, you know, going to college and forgetting to pay the electricity and the bills just keep piling up and piling up. A phone just shuts off.
So should they pay for it? I mean, should kids be contributing to something like that?
As the kids get older and they're teenagers, especially if they want all the bells and whistles and they're doing a lot of texting, yes, I definitely believe that the kids should pay for it, and that's why the pay-as-you-go plan is such a great idea.
Well, you know, and I've had a lot of conversations with some of my friends with kids, and the idea of allowance always pops up. What's your perspective on of giving kids an allowance?
When we started our kids on an allowance, we started them on a budgeting system. So we give a big allowance to our kids and think of it as more of a salary. There are certain things that they are required to do in our house. And in return for that, they get an allowance, but they pay for a lot of their own expenses.
Oh, so like school clothes, maybe school supplies, things like that? That's all coming out of the budget?
Activities.
Wow. Activities is a big one. Now, I know you say you were a goalie back in the day, too. Now, hockey equipment, my husband was a hockey player, and I'm like dreading the day that we're going to have to pay for all of this stuff because it's so expensive, but how do kids need to contribute?
Well, and I don't want to pick on hockey, but it is one of the big expenses out there. Skiing, horseback riding, there's a few of them.
Hockey is expensive.
Hockey is very expensive. What I suggest parents do is make the cost transparent to kids. So not in a guilty sort of way, but sort of like, you know, this is what ice time costs, this is what lessons cost, equipment, and make sure the kids understand all of the costs that go into a sport, and then give some of those categories over to the kids. So maybe let them have a certain chunk of money that they're responsible for within that activity so they can learn to maintain their skates. Maybe the parents pay for the skates, but the kids pay for the sharpening of the skates.
So a balance.
It encourages them to take care of it. And some equipment certainly you don't want to buy used, but you can also teach them how to shop for used, you know, practice gear, or how to choose a less expensive summer camp, things like that.
Do you like the idea of giving kids cash so that they can actually see it leave their hands, or would you stay away from like a debit card situation?
Definitely I would start with cash, and with really little kids like you have, you know, it's quarters and taping them to a sheet. We've talked about that before, so that they can see how their money adds up to make a small purchase. With older kids, cash is very important, and I suggest if they are on a budgeting system that they break it down into categories and they're paying out cash so that they can make that relationship. I'm giving something up to get something back.
Yeah, I think too with the sports thing, if they're contributing, they're less likely to just do it just because they think they're supposed to do it. I mean, they should love what they're doing and put effort towards it. Now, the car is the biggest thing. My 1989 Subaru GL with 225,000 miles on it that I got, let me tell you, the thing had four-wheel drive and I hauled it. But a lot of my friends got new cars that they were just given. What do you think about the car?
Well, every family's different again there, because some actually need their kids to be able to drive and help out with the driving after school. What I recommend is a lot of people get caught up in how much it's going to cost. So start with teaching your kids that they need to save the money for driver's ed. driving is an expensive privilege for kids to have.
Yes.
And then instead of worrying about our premiums are going to go up, I want you to have the difference in premiums, have them save the amount of your deductible, your insurance deductible, lock it away in a savings account they don't have access to, and when the first accident happens, and it will, the money is right there. And it's a lot simpler to have that one figure and that one number to work with, and then they have to replenish that money before they can drive again.
I took out my neighbor's mailbox with my parents' Dodge Caravan. It was slightly unfortunate. I think I still had my permit, and I believe my dad was yelling in the car.
See, now I chose a Toyota Camry because better manufacturing, better gas mileage, so I made the wiser choice.
See, you really did. We had a gas guzzler. I think gas would be the easiest thing to say kids should pay for it.
Exactly. Yep, kids can pay for gas. They can also, if they're driving the family car, be responsible for things like making sure the fluids are always topped off, that the car is kept clean while mom and dad are still around to kind of keep an eye on those things, and that teaches them good habits for when they're out on their own.
Yeah, the bottom line is you think you've got to give them some responsibility, some budgeting, because otherwise if they get out into the world, they have no idea what to do.
And it all hits them at once.
Yeah.
You know, you go out into the world and you're 19 years old and everything comes crashing down on you at one time.
And you think you've done your kids a service by helping them out, but you've really done them a disservice when they don't know what to do.
Well, oh, go ahead.
No, you.
I was going to say, the other nice thing to think about is as your kids get older, if you are giving them an allowance, as they get to the point where they can have a job of their own, 16 years old, 17 years old, start decreasing that allowance. Instead of increasing it to cover their activities, decrease it so when they're 18, they're ready to pay for all of those things on their own.
Good advice, Tracie. Thank you so much. So Tracie has more ideas for older kids and money, including how to deal with field trips, and we have all that posted on TwinCitiesLive.com, along with a link to her blog, and it's all under fun, because isn't money so fun? Totally Depends
fun.
on the day, I guess. Coming up next, we are getting a little messy with crafts for the kids.